The Stringers and the Splatanas are the two brand new weapon classes in Splatoon 3. It's crazy to think we now have 11 of these. But anyway, today I wanted to take a deep dive into how exactly these two weapons work, and if they're either really great or really terrible. If you enjoy this and want to see more analytical content from me, be sure to subscribe, and let's get started with the Tri Stringer. Stringer is very similar to Chargers in terms of its charge speed and the ability of having a charge hold. Because of this, Tri Stringer has big competition in terms of dealing with Charger, and it has to be able to be better than that, a relatively established solid weapon with a good kit of Splat Bomb and a 200p ink vacuum. Let's start with some things it does worse than Charger. Its paint is absolutely horrible, and Charger's is already bad, but whether it's tap shotting or full charging, vertical or horizontal, Stringer is just horrible at it. The best thing I can say about it is it's okay at painting walls, but that's already something Charger was good at. This also means it'll have a lower special output. Its full charge also does much less damage, only doing 105 if you connect all 3 bullets, meaning if you just miss one of the 3, you aren't even going to one-shot. Bow also has shot velocity and drop-off damage, which is different than Charger, meaning it probably won't go as far, but it could hit people under obstacles, though we don't know how much damage it would do. Most weapons have something called fall-off damage where they deal less as it goes down, but considering how low damage Bow already does, if it even gets a little bit of fall-off, it won't be one-shotting over any obstacles, which is already a really hard and niche thing to try to go for anyway. Stringer also doesn't seem to have piercing shots, meaning they won't go through multiple people in a row, which is a minor downside, but a downside nonetheless. Stringer does seem to have some slight advantages though, with a little bit of mobility and ink efficiency compared to Charger, which means it could potentially play more aggressively, especially when factoring in the weapon's 2 main gimmicks. The first main gimmick is Tri Stringer fires bolts of 3, horizontally if you're grounded and vertically in the air. While we know even missing one of these will not one-shot, it does mean it's much easier to get reliable damage compared to something like a Charger where you have to hit dead center and is either hit or miss. This means it should have a much easier time in close range, and in general should not be as extreme as Charger. It also means Stringer should be really good at comboing with things like burst bombs or other sources of chip damage, which is something Charger really isn't as good at. Its second main gimmick is that the shots have explosions at the end. Now these seem to be incredibly weak damage-wise, but since we know the arrows are also weak, these can combo together. The explosion radius could be used to hit people and chip damage them to help with even more combo potential, which just seems to stack with something the bow is already trying to do well. Also, the final thing to add is the bow has 2 charges. It doesn't really mean anything since it's about the same charge speed as Charger's 1 charge, but I figure I'd mention it because it is still a thing. So while Stringer has worse shot speed, range, damage, and paint than Charger, it does have its strengths. It strafes faster, the multiple hitboxes give it a wider chance of hitting the opponent, it plays off of chip damage, and the explosions are really useful. I think Stringer is much more aggressive and plays better around chip damage comps, while Charger tends to play around comps that can take advantage of its threat and plays more defensively. So this weapon is clearly set apart from Charger, but it really needs a kit to solidify that playstyle and allow it to play it to its fullest. At first I thought its kit was awful, but now I think it's just mediocre. I'll start with the worst part, which is Toxic Mist. Unless if the sub gets some major buffs in Splatoon 3, it's just not great with it. Even if it did though, what this weapon needs is something to enhance its mobility and or its chip damage, and Toxic Mist does quite literally neither of these. I mean, it's got a little bit of situational usefulness. I guess you could use it to help a teammate or for you to retreat. You could probably throw it on the objective, and you could use it to combo with the Killer Whale 5.1. But that's the thing, it only helps comboing with its special weapon and doesn't really complement the main weapon whatsoever. All the uses I gave Toxic Mist could also be applied to literally any weapon with Toxic Mist, so it's not special here. On to the special weapon, it's Killer Whale 5.1. I like this better because it does provide chip damage, which can be useful for bows. It would require less shots to kill. It allows it to play better off the multiple shots it has, the explosions could trap people in the Killer Whale, and the Toxic Mist could even trap people in the Killer Whale if you see someone stuck in it. Killer Whale is solid for long distance pressure and allowing your team to move forward, which does work well with the aggressive comps you would like to run with this thing. So the kit is not completely awful and mainly lacks in the sub-weapon department. However, I think that's the most important part for this weapon. Having a sub that can help with its mobility and damage would really solidify its playstyle and allow it to be a huge help to its team, and if it can't be that aggressive chip damage heavy weapon, why not just run a Charger, or if you want to play that aggressive comp, run something like an Explosher or Ballpoint Splatling. Look, after the Stringer was revealed and I made my video on why it might be bad, I wanted to be be proven wrong, and I think a lot of the things they added, like the explosions at the end, are better, but it's still not enough. I wouldn't call the weapon bad anymore, but it just doesn't really have its perfect niche yet, and I really hope that either its kit gets changed or it gets a second kit that fits with it way better. I think if it can get that and maybe some small main weapon buffs, it can end up in a really cool spot, and I think the types of comp set playstyle it has would be super unique and fun to play, so I really hope we get there. Alright though, maybe we'll have better luck with the second new weapon class, the Splatanas. These are fast, mobile weapons made for killing with a bunch of unique modes of attack, and we actually have 2 variants for these, and they both have some semblance of a kit, so we got a lot to look into here. While brushes are the most comparable class here, they are much simpler with just a flick attack and rolling for mobility. The closest thing to the mobility we have here is a charged flick, which is predictable and does not go very far, nowhere near the same tier as brushes. The trade-off for this though is more range, a potential one-shot that comes with a dash for a bit of extra distance, and many types of attacks as opposed to the normal flicking for brushes. Honestly, there's no real major weaknesses besides its range, but I think that one is pretty significant because brushes make up for it by having insane rolling speeds, and Splatanas will have to work a lot harder to get in. Now, we know the damage for all of the flicks, being 30 for the normal one, 60 for an uncharged slash, and 120 for a fully charged one. What we have left to assume is the ink that gets flung away rather than being super close to the sword itself. I'm gonna assume it's either gonna be the same or slightly weaker damage, since I don't see any reason why a melee weapon would do more damage at a distance. So this is gonna be a very stealthy weapon that needs to get up close, and when it does its attacks, it will not just be swinging like a normal brush. That's a misconception I really want to get out of the way. This weapon has a high emphasis on comboing multiple of its attacks together, such as using the charge slash to get closer and deal high damage and finish them off with the flicks. This will be much harder than brushes, which can abuse their ability to force their way in or in uncomfortable positions, while this weapon will have to shark to get closer or play off of comboing teammates or their kit. Because of that, I think they are one of the most kit-dependent and especially sub-weapon-dependent weapons in the entire game. Luckily, unlike the Stringer, I think this actually has a great sub-weapon for it, which is Torpedo. This sub-weapon can not only be useful for poking at a distance, but by rolling or bouncing it off a wall, it can do anywhere from 60 to 35 damage with a massive hitbox. This would combo very well with the flicks, basically meaning you can use the Torpedo and then engage with the main weapon in a variety of ways, such as an uncharged charge slash to do 60 and the normal flicks to do 30 twice after a direct torpedo hit. It also has some minor uses in being able to help you escape quickly since it paints its feet for free, and you have the explosion of the torpedo afterward, meaning if you roll it behind you, you can use it to escape quickly. Its special is the Ultra Stamp, which I like better than on other melee weapons. For something like the Octobrush, it was a little bit redundant, but for this weapon, I think it has a good use case. As I mentioned before, this weapon would require comboing a lot of different attacks or using a charge slash, so if it goes to attack someone and then has to switch to a second target, it doesn't really have a quick kill option. Unless if you now have your special, in which you can immediately pull it out to get some one-hit kills. The special can also help with its mobility, continuing a kill streak, and the throw mode can be useful for poking or maybe getting a kill at a distance when the special's over. It can also help with damaging objects since the main weapon seems to have a really low damage output, which can be useful for things like the Rainmaker shield barrier. Real quick, I want to touch on the second variant, which is the Splatana Stamper. Other than it being a heavyweight and this 3-second footage clip, which tells us basically nothing new about it, we don't really know anything about this variant. So for now, I'm just going to go over the sub-weapon that is attached to it, which is Burst Bomb. This might be the only sub that would be better for it than Torpedo, and obviously would help with its combo potential even more, which is especially useful since this is the heavyweight and therefore slower Splatana. Well, I know this is a generic thing to say, but I think the Splatanas have a lot of potential. With all the varied attacks and unique way of killing, I think it's going to take a lot of time for people to get used to them and really master the weapon, so we probably won't see too much in the first month. However, with 2 useful sub-weapons and a variety of attacks, I think this weapon does have the tools to succeed as a Slayer and ambush weapon. Regardless which of these 2 classes you're looking to pick up, my advice would be to give them time before deciding if you want to use them or not. Both of these weapon classes have a lot to them compared to other classes in the game, and especially when you're going to a brand new game, will take a lot of time to get used to and especially to master. While both of these weapons have some issues, I think they both have a future, especially if the Stringer can get a brand new kit, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what players can do with these weapons. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think of these 2 new weapon classes in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.